Hello and welcome back. And today we continuing on where I left off. I'm about to explain to you the categories. What are the categories? Some of you are going to be going into each of your seasons and you have to recognize which category. Everybody love, ooh, I like the Esther category. Some of you ain't going into the Esther category. I want to go into the palace, and I wanna be in the luxury lap, and then I want to stay there for like a year, and then I want to marry the Xerxes king, and then I want to live in the lap of luxury for another 5 years, and then I love you. Some of y'all ain't going in there for that. Some of y'all about to be Ruth. You know what Ruth went through? Some of y'all lost your husband. I ain't talking about they died. Some of y'all were in previous relationships. That isn't actually pertaining to a husband. You were in a relationship with somebody and God separated you from that person. Whether you were dating them or married to them, God separated you from them. And under the principle of the Bible that talks about how Adam and his soul, and it talked about how he only lived for one day because he was operating correctly. He only lived 996 years or something like that. Because he was tainted. Some of y'all was with tainted people. Some of y'all were unequally yoked with the wrong folks. And for God, that was a spiritual divorce, like that person spiritually died. They were spiritually dead. Do it with spiritually dead people. And now you got to go on your journey. Because Ruth had to go with Naomi. Some of you will be going with people. Some of you going to meet your Naomi when you get there. Ask me how I know. I met my Naomi exactly 4 days after I got to New York. I didn't realize she was my Naomi until I had ran into her again. Me and this woman were best friends for the entire time that I was in New York. And she covered me the whole time I was there. I think we only separated for about 6 to 8 months. And then when I saw her again, and it was funny because the 6 months that we were separated, I had befriended another woman that was more closely related to where I was at the time, acted as the same thing. But when me and that woman separated and I went back to the other city, the one that I assumed that the Lord was putting me in, I ran into the very first woman that the Lord had led me to after that first 4 days. And me and her stayed connected the whole time from that point forward. So some of you are going to have a Naomi where you're going. Some of you are Ruth and you are going to be operating with Naomi. But that means that you're going to have to take this person's instruction. Some of you, it may be in a business format. Some of you, it may be in a job format. Some of you, it just may be somebody that God connects you to and you're both in similar situations. They're older than you and they're giving you wisdom as to how to maintain during that season. And some of them, they just there in order to keep you covered during that season. They're there to help you, give you some wisdom, keep you in ordinance, supply you what you need. And y'all gonna take care of each other. Because this person is your Naomi, Ruth. And you may have multiple. Why do I say that? because you may have a Naomi for your physical situation, meaning there's a Naomi that's supposed to keep guidance of you while you are operating through that experience. Then you may have another Naomi that may be business related. Some of y'all, God has called you to go into ministry. He's called you to create your own businesses. For those of y'all that have been following my other channel that I just started doing creation and content creation again on that channel. Yellow K. Follow Yellow K. Anyway, that one, you're looking for that Naomi that's going to give you the advice necessary in order to take the skills that you already have and create strategies, business strategies, alignment strategies. Because with Boaz, some of y'all want to be Ruth. Some of y'all want to be Ruth because that means that you can just inherit. Some of y'all need to be Esther, that you need to have strategy before you walk up in these relationships. There's a breakdown of character that you have to develop. And that's what your next wilderness is going to do. It's going to develop your character. Wilderness can do nothing more but to develop that character, boo. Oh, that character is going to get developed. It's going to get pruned. You're going to get pressed. You're going to get processed. You're going to be put on the potter's wheel. You're going to be broke again. You're going to be put back on the potter's wheel. You're going to be hating on God for a minute there. And some of y'all won't even want to admit that you would be. Because you're going to be sitting there like, God, I do not like this season. When can I leave? Some of y'all in season right now, you got the good part right now. You still begging to leave this situation. Because maybe the people that you live with just annoying the hell out of you. I don't know. God has made it uncomfortable in that situation. And you're like, I might need to go to my next thing. Because see, what we naturally assume is the next season going to be better than the season that we in. Not always is that the case. One or two things is going to happen. You're going to either end up directly leaving where you at and getting to your next location smoothly. This usually happens. Hear me what I'm saying. That happens when you don't tell nobody that you're leaving. Because that means the enemy doesn't have an opportunity to get in the way because you didn't open your mouth about your plans, and then the enemy insert a stumbling block location. God won't ever let you stay there but for a couple of days. They'll only be there for a couple of days. But usually you're going to have to go through some stress, de-stress, and all kinds of stuff in that 24-hour, 48-hour, sometimes it's a 3-day period. Consecrate during that 3 days. I'm telling you right now, consecrate for that 3-day period. Because God is going to need to give you instructions during that period. Because that's what I ended up having to do. As soon as I arrived in my next location and I realized how bad it was, I had to go through a 3-day consecration. And he had me going through a 3-day consecration on my time of the month. I didn't know I was leaving on the day that I was on the time of my month. Imagine how that was. And God provided that somebody gave me enough money to get my tampons. Because I hadn't even packed tampons with me. Oh, it get real, sis. God had me going to the mall for 6 weeks. Sitting on a bench all day. But you know what? I ended up running into a woman that when I got to my next location that he ended up leading me to, she was there. I ran into her, and God will do that. He'll sometimes put somebody in front of you that is a representation of your next season. You'll see them, but you won't recognize it until you get to that next location. God be like, this is the person. The woman that I ended up befriending for 8 months, I met her in one of the first locations I went to that God placed me in to have me rest. He had me rest in a location for 1 month. I met this woman momentarily. She was sitting at the table. When I got to the next location, me and her became friends. And we were friends throughout my time for about 8 months in that next location. She was my prayer partner, all kinds of stuff. And God told me at a specific point in time to separate. And let me give you this warning right now. God will put you in situations where there will be people that you will walk with for a season that He gonna tell you to separate, and you won't feel bad because God, you had me walking with them for 8 months, and and He'll be like, I know, I'm gonna need you to separate from them. If you allow me to, I'll let it naturally separate. Don't say nothing. I'll separate you from them. And He did. It don't ever feel good. Some of y'all are in separation seasons right now because God's trying to separate you before He elevates you. Are you hearing me? Okay. Now, some of you are in Joseph. Oh, my whole 4-year period that was my whole Joseph season. That whole 4 years was Joseph. You're not going to like the Joseph season. For those of you that are called to be Josephs, in the season that you're about to walk into, you're going to be going through, it may take 4 years, it may take 1 year, but you're going to go through the entire, it's going to look like you walk through Joseph. You're going to have betrayers betray you. You're going to have, some of y'all got family turning on you right now. And you sitting up there, God, where the exit? Where the exit? Where the exit? That's why you try and get out now. Some of y'all are Joseph. Meaning you about to fall in a pit. You about to enter into a form of something that looks similar to slavery and or prison. That was not a fun season. No, I didn't end up in prison. I ended up in a homeless shelter that acted like a prison. I guarantee you there are women that came up out that place. I'm telling you right now. They came out of there. They came in from prison and said, this is worse than the prison, y'all. How y'all here? Roommates. They're like, they got sentenced to stay there for a year because that was their probationary location. They're like, I saw a woman, she came in there, she wasn't even sentenced to it. She just came in there thinking that she was like, well, I'm going to just stay here because I forgot what she was trying to do. She came in there, stayed there for about maybe 1 week. But she was like, you been here how long? And God had kept me there for like 2-3 years. I was looking at God like, oh, why am I still here? You want to know why He let me stay there? He let me stay there because of the fact that I was praying over people during that time frame. They don't call me a prayer warrior for no reason. The whole time I was there, I was praying. I can just about tell you everybody that passed through that I prayed with, prayed for. And some people came in and covered me while I was in there. God will put you in a situation. You'll be like, this is a thorn in my side, God. When can I leave? He's like, I pray that you have the faith that's going to sustain you until you leave. And He let me leave. He let me leave in the middle of my time there. So exactly 2 years in, He pulled me out. Okay. So at the 2-year mark, He pulled me out for 1 month. And then He put me back. I left from July to August. Was it July to August or mid-July to mid-August? Something like that. After having been there for 2 years, when I came back, He had shifted everything in that place. And then had me move to a completely different floor. And everything got better from that point forward. Because everything prior to that, oh, it was hell. But just like Joseph, I'm telling you this for a reason. Just like Joseph went from slavery. The first half of the process was like slavery. And then he was put into what? The prison. For another year, I spent was it year? Yeah, it was about a year I spent in there. But he, at the same time, if you go and you read, now this may be something that you read in the book, but I do know in the movie that they did, Disney's version of the movie, Joseph had a tree. It was a little tree in the room, in the dungeon room that they had him in when they put him in the prison. He was nurturing that tree all the way up for the next 3 years. God is going to give you an idea when he puts you in that Joseph season. He may put you back into the prison and it may get better because remember, Joseph ended up working with the baker and they ended up making him a lead of the prisoners. Remember? I remember during my time there, every time one of the people would come into my room, they would always say, this room always has an air about it that's peaceful. And then they'd send a crazy person in there. I get it right down that everybody in there was peaceful. And then they send a crazy person in there. Then we'd have to pray and do all kinds of craziness to get this daggone person out. And I tell you, Satan was running double time during that time. And oh God, the nights that it was a full moon. Jesus Christ. When I tell you the spiritual things that I witnessed happen in that place, the physical things I witnessed happen in that place, you don't know. Sweetheart, you don't know. God will have you in a place because he needs you to see what's going on. He needs you to understand what's going on. And 9 times out of 10, whatever area he's called you to, that's what's going to be your thorn on your side. I knew I was called to help the homeless. Not to mention that there's a history of homelessness in my birth mother's generational lineage. My birth mother was in an unstable situation right until she died. I think she got her apartment before she passed and ended up in an abusive relationship. And that abusive relationship she ended up in right after she separated from my birth father. And this person abused her until I was born, which shows me that this was a satanic person that was sent specifically to try to take me out. Still here. Still. Anyway. But, yeah, you're going to have an assignment that God's going to give you. He's going to give you wisdom. He's going to give you understanding. He's going to give you understanding of what your purpose is. And you're going to have to be stretched and keep on moving forward in order to continue to walk with him during that period of time. And it ain't going to be pretty. It ain't going to be fun. It ain't going to be. Joseph's season was not fun. Blessed be to Jesus. You may not be in a homeless shelter. Some of you are going to be in hotels. Some of you are going to be in Airbnbs. But it's going to be in places and areas and spaces that you ain't going to want to be in. But God's going to send you there because you got to pray for the people that he's going to cross your path during that season. But he's also going to be working out of you the things that he needs to work out of you. So you might as well make the dedication now that you're going to let him work it out in you. Some of y'all been waiting on that man to show up, and the reason that it's been taking so long is that man been kicking and fighting the Lord. And God was just trying to process him like he needs to process some of y'all. Kicking, screaming, and fighting. That's why I tell y'all about Pretty Daisy's journey, because some of y'all spouses are going through exactly what she went through. And some of y'all about to go through some of those experiences. But she know why she went. She know exactly why. Some of y'all gonna know when God puts you through. You gonna know why God's putting you through these experiences. Because it's certain generational curses that y'all need to deal with. This is why I keep telling y'all go watch Tiffany Montgomery, because Tiffany Montgomery is telling you these things that need to be dealt with and taken care of. And some of y'all don't want to do it. You're not going to be able to get around that, because God's not going to release you. You can't think that he's going to release you into a major blessing, high status level, financial blessing, every area of your life changed and transformed, and he's not going to process y'all? Well, where are we in? I didn't just jump on here because I thought, hey, let me just step on YouTube and start a YouTube ministry. Hell no. I've been through this. This is why God put me here. Are you? What's wrong with you? You thought this was cute? You thought I came here because I thought it was cute to come on here? I actually get offended if people think that I just came on here. Because since I ain't just come on here. I've been through some stuff. I've been through my season. I've been through my darkness. Let me help lead you through it, so you can get to the other side of it like I did. And some of you gonna have to go through that Joseph season. And some of y'all hard cases, you gonna have to go through Job. Friends betraying you, family betraying you, people that you got around you, and some of your spouses are in this season right now. Got people in their ears, they going through it. Got the boils, got the sores, got the sicknesses, got the this, got the that. Trying to figure out what the heck is going on with me. Everybody done turned on them, trying to figure out what in the world's going on. Joe. I'm not saying this because I'm like, ooh, let me make you scared. No, this is, it is what it is. You're going to have to go through. And God will let you know which story you're in. He'll bring you right into the Bible as to which story you're in. But the best thing that you can do right now is to prepare for it. How do you prepare for it? I'm going to give you a few tips that is going to make it easier for you. God had me in a season for 6 weeks when I first got to the location that I was in when I went to New York. I wasn't staying nowhere. I was barely getting any sleep. 6 whole weeks. When I tell you, he led homeless people to me to give me advice. How to avoid these places, where not to go, what areas not to go in. When people are led to you, you best to listen. I will never forget. There was one morning there that it was a church that I had been going to for the first month. The reason God had placed me in this church, it was before I found the Church of Restoration. He placed me in this church because I was supposed to actually, what story were they doing? They did the parable of Jesus, and then they did Joshua. We had to go through the entire book of Joshua. And I had to see that entire teaching while I was there. And I was at their Bible studies and so on and so forth. This was the church that he led me to within the first 48 hours of me being in New York City. And I was blessed during that season. They were people that were favoring me, giving me things, so on and so forth. Because some of y'all gonna have to really operate on the favor of God, especially if he's taking you into these Job seasons, these Joshua seasons, these Joseph seasons. Some of you really are going to have to depend on the people that God is going to send you, and you're going to have specific discernment because the enemy's still out there. And I'm telling you this. For some of you, if you have not started a journey of fasting and consecration, you're going to have to start to learn. Because what saved me during that 6 weeks is the fact that I previously already had a consecration regimen. There were people that were going into Target because they was homeless, eating up the candies and you could go in there, the whole shelf. Homeless folks. Because there were so many homeless people in New York. Oh my God. They were in there. They was just opening boxes. But because I had a fasting regimen, I bet I could walk into a place that had food in it and would never be bothered by it. Because I had already trained my body to go without food for a day, 2 days, 3 days. And then God, because I was obedient, would provide me. He'd lead me to a church that was having a service that had food. And sometimes he'd lead me to a church that they had food that was vegan. Completely in alignment with my diet. That's another reason why he had aligned me with the woman that he aligned me with to be my Naomi, because she knew where everything was. We was eating good and didn't have to pay for nothing. Churches and all of this kind of stuff. So God's going to give you a order of things. He also, some of you, the reason why God's going to tell you to pack a singular bag or 2 bags is because where he's taking you, that's all you're going to have the ability to have access to. Because I left with 2 bags that first time when I left to go to New York. And I'm so glad that I left with only those 2 bags. And I remember at one particular point, I had been out for 3 weeks and one of the bags handle snapped, and God said, I need you to go get this bag from the Marshalls. I went and I picked it up because he had given me a couple dollars at the time. Went and picked up a bag that was simple, and he said, I need you. I don't even think it was a Marshall's bag. I think I had went to the grocery store and bought like a $1.99 one in plastic bags. You know, the ones that they have now. That is pretty nice size bag, but it's plastic. He had me put everything that was in that bag into this plastic bag that I could carry with me. And then he had me get rid of the bag that I had brought with me because the handle snapped. It was a beautiful bag. One of the church women had given it to me. But the handle snapped. And I left it there. I lie to you not. I left it there for 1 hour, came back, the bag was gone. God will give you the wisdom of where to go, what to do, and specific things that you're going to need to do throughout that experience to get you through. If you don't have it, he'll lead somebody to you either that has the answer of what it is that you need, or he's going to give you, lead you to somebody that has the answer, lead you to somebody that's going to give you what you need, so on and so forth, so that you'll be prepared to walk through that experience. You have to be at peace with God during that experience and not be like, oh my God, God done dropped me off in the middle of nowhere. Oh my God, I ain't got nothing. Because he will. Because let me tell you something. When I went to New York, I didn't even have a phone. I had nothing. I couldn't even get on Facebook. I had to get on Facebook on somebody else's phone to message somebody that the Lord allotted me the ability to do that night. He had me operating on a map. When I say a map, I mean an actual map, meaning I had to go to the subway and get a map for every area that I was supposed to be traveling in. And guess what? I had to look at the map to see which way I needed to go on the map. And then he had me traveling through subway stations at night. Let me tell you something. You think you know spiritual warfare? Go sit in the subway in the middle of the night. And you go sit in the subway in the middle of the night. Right around somewhere between 12 and 3 o'clock in the morning, depending on which station you're in. The homeless folks that are really in that with demons, oh, they gonna come up. You want to see what demons look like. But only somebody that was spiritually ready and capable could sit in a place like that and not freak out. I remember one night there, I had sat on a bench and it was dripping water somewhere. I forget. It was somewhere in one of the stations. I forget what the station was. On one end of the station, all you could hear was the water dripping. Because what they were actually doing was the people were supposed to come in the middle of the night and scrub the station. But there was this one particular homeless person that would come in there. And she would act real out of her head. And God had me during that season, I lie to you not. This was during that first 6 weeks. He had me going from station to station. Every 2 hours, I had to move stations. Because God was strategically moving me around during that season. I was like, God, why you got me going through all this for me? Oh my God. And I kept running into people that were going to be in relation to me either in the very next season or the season after that. I remember one night I had fallen asleep on the bench in the subway, and a police officer had sat next to me. Actually, he wasn't a police officer. He was a security guard waiting to get off. I think he had just gotten off of his shift or he was going on his shift. Didn't know who he was. Ended up I didn't think about this. And actually, I think I'm only putting it together now. But I probably put it together back then too. That this cop was a security guard at the very shelter I ended up housed in after I spent a month resting at a different shelter before they shifted me to his shelter. I keep telling you, God will put people in front of you. You don't know why these people were put, and then you'll be like, wait, that's the same person that I saw. See how that worked? So I'm gonna come back and we're gonna talk a little further.